seconds.
The pressure, the pounding, the terror.
2 seconds.
You can't breathe. It chokes you. It destroys you.
1 second.
You begin to self-destruct. Experience the terrifying.
You scared? A look at Scanners. It's a frightening movie from the 80s by the Canadian king of horror, David Cronenberg. It's exactly the type of movie that a lot of people will be watching this weekend to mark the most supernatural day of the year, Halloween. Tashauna, Reid is here with some other options. What scary flicks do you have in mind for us today?
Well, Asha, full disclosure, I am not a horror film lover. I get too scared, but if you do like scary movies, I have the list for you, a fully Canadian movie list. So let's get to it. I want to start with The Brood. That's a film from 1979. This is a film from David Cronenberg, and it falls into the category of body horror. So if you like The Walking Dead, you'll be fine. It's about a series of murders that get pinned on a group of children, but guess what? It's something else. And in 1981, My Bloody Valentine, that film hit theaters. Now, there was a 2009 remake, and it's a slasher film, which is about a killer who kills people who celebrate Valentine's Day. And the film was apparently so bloody in the 80s that they had to make cuts, no pun intended, and edit out scenes to bring it down from an X rating to an R rating. So there's that if you like slasher films. The third film that I want to talk about is the 1988 film Pin. Now this is a bit bizarre. It's a story about a man whose best friend is this life-size doll kind of mannequin, but the mannequin is very jealous and he'll kill anyone that comes in his way of his friendship. And then there's Ginger Snaps. That was a film in the year 2000. It's about two sisters, one named Ginger who gets bit by a werewolf, and guess what happens? Ginger snaps. Now, the film actually broke a quiet time in the horror film Canadian market because there hadn't been a Canadian horror film for 10 years, and then that film came out. And in 1974, the film Black Christmas, this was a gory slasher film. It's a story of a sorority that becomes the target of this killer over the Christmas holidays. Now, it actually was from an American film director, but it was made in Toronto by a Canadian production company. So there's that. All of that good stuff made here in Canada.
I used to binge watch Nightmare on Elm Street. That's not Canadian, but I know. But now I can't watch horror films at all. I've lost it. But how far back does this Canadian tradition for horror films go?
Well, if we want to take it back, we got to go all the way back to 1961. That is when the first horror film was made in Canada. It hit screens, and it was also the first 3D movie ever. Now, that's pretty interesting. It was directed by Julian Rothman, and it's bizarre because it's called The Mask, and most people think of The Mask with Jim Carrey, but it's not that mask. I want to share a scene from the film The Mask from 1961. Take a look.
Then you will lift your mask as he lifts his, and you will look through it with him into the weirdest nightmare world that man has ever dreamed, or the screen has ever dared show. The new realm of horror that can only be seen through The Mask.
So this is a film that is essentially about this psychiatrist named Dr. Alan Barnes, and he comes into possession of this ancient tribal mask, and when he puts it on, he sees like this nightmarish world and, you know, monsters and all this horrible stuff, and it drives him to the brink of, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but check it out. The marketing was very solid, and it was in 3D. Can you imagine? They've actually done a digital remaster, and they're showing it at a theater at the Tiff Bell Lightbox.
Okay.
Yeah, so people can actually see that in the theaters.
I'm with you. My heart can't take the horror anymore, the frightening
Why
stuff.
do that to yourself?
Right?
I like to sleep at night.
Thanks, Tashauna.
You're welcome, Ashley.